Another gaming company is doing shady things for profit.
Hey, we've got a frankly ridiculous situation, right? Kerbal Space Program 2 right now is on sale for 20% off as part of the Steam Summer Sale. Thing is though, there isn't a developer for the game. Yeah, Take-Two are literally selling this game currently in early access, even though they just closed down the development studio. They have given people no further plan for development. They've actually just had a wall of silence around this entire thing. Straight up, they have not actually admitted the closure of the studio. The whole
So there's two things about this. First of all, on a technical level, and I'm gonna try to be really nice about this, on a technical level, well, maybe they don't have a studio, maybe they're gonna remake it, they're gonna put new people on it and something like that. So it's gonna have people making it. Maybe that's the idea here. Maybe that's why they're doing it. But the most likely situation is they just want free money, they are done trying, and there you go.
whole thing is weird. It's a mess. New players are being charged $39.99 for an early access game that does not have a development team. That's wild. So today,
Well, most early access games aren't actually finished games that are gonna even launch, so that's not a huge reach from what's already normal in our society, sadly.
walk you through this absurd situation and how one of the largest companies in the gaming industry seems to just be fine doing this. And of course, not only this, also the entire development process, story, and launch of
I mean, why wouldn't the huge corporation that's interested in profit be fine with doing this? I find that hard to understand. Why would they not be fine doing this? Everyone's selling microtransactions, everyone's selling pay to win. Stupid skins, battle passes that are completely anti consumer and blatantly just sometimes duping the players. Why wouldn't they be fine doing this?
Kerbal Space Program 2, because that was also awful, and turns out we're going to learn a little bit more about that today. So to me, this is just treating customers with contempt, especially when you think about the people who have not been told about what's going on, who they want to spend $40 on the game. People deserve to know. You can help people know and help us out with only 2 mouse clicks, liking this video and subscribing to the channel. That essentially gives the algorithm
Like the
a positive
video,
signal.
my
That means
video,
it's more
no.
likely that our content will get out there. The further videos go, the more resources we have to do a better job for you. Okay, let's talk about it then. 1 week ago, Intercept Games was closed down. Now, we know this because of WARN, which stands for Worker Adjustment and Retraining, something like that. Basically, right, if there are going to be layoffs, at least seemingly within Seattle, then there is going to be a WARN post about that. Those actually go up requiring 60 days of notice to staff. So it's a policy that exists to help staff not be completely rug pulled by their companies, so that if they are going
Yeah, stuff like this is real.
to lose their job, at least they can try to line something up. So because of that, we basically know what location and what company the job cuts are from. Now, it's not granular, it's still listed as Take-Two, but it is Take-Two, 70 jobs, permanent closure. The next way that we know, of course, is just staff confirming all of this on LinkedIn, right? Because the studio was completely shut down at the start of July, and that means that the whole process seems
What is this? Grace Tohiki. No. It's Grace Too Many Cakes. Today was the last day of Intercept Games. I have so many feelings about it all, the industry and my career in games, and probably how much food she consumes per day. Bro, that's like 6,000 calories, okay? That's more than 3 people on average they consume. What the hell is this? Today I remember all of the incredible people that worked on Kerbal Space Program. They made a pretty awesome thing. Thanks for letting me be a small part of it. You were a huge part of it because of the space. What the hell?
to have taken a week. So that's the weird situation that we're in. The developer for KSP2 has a
Wait. Is she on this picture? Let's see. We can't miss her. I mean, literally, it's yep, yeah. Oh Jesus! Oh ho ho! Ah, let's upgrade that to 8,000 kilocalories per day.
Process seems
Woo!
to have taken a week. So that's the weird situation that we're in. The developer for KSP2 has officially been closed, staff are not working the game anymore, and Take-Two, who owned their publisher, Private Division, basically a sub-label of Take-Two, so they've not actually admitted that. It's really strange. They have been adamant that somebody will be working in Kerbal Space Program 2. They did an interview with Game Developer where they basically
I'm pretty sure they need to be adamant about this in the bare minimum because Steam allows early access games to be sold, which means Steam needs to have some kind of user protection against scams in this regard. Now, obviously, it doesn't need to be perfect. It's probably 100% not perfect, obviously. But Steam needs to have some kind of rules and regulations in place for early access games to not just be full-blown scams. And one of those things most likely is that there needs to be always be an active group of developers working on the game or something like that. So this is most likely something they need to do just because Steam forces them, potentially.
said that Private Division as a publisher would provide updates for the game. Thing is, they didn't really say how. They didn't even say like what category of solution will there be for this problem. And funnily enough, they managed to say all of that without actually admitting that the game developer, Intercept, that they had been closed. So it is very strange. Now, even though Take-Two are saying Private Division will keep the game developed, somehow, you know, no plan, no admission. Even though they're saying that, we also know that Private Division themselves are facing layoffs, right? So they're facing layoffs, and also per IGN's reporting, they're in the midst of potential sale options. One for the Kerbal Space Program IP, because they own that, and the other one, just them as a publisher, right? The whole thing Private Division going.
The Kerbal Space Program was awesome, but it was niche. It actually required kind of a lot of people understanding how to do it.
Which obviously does not bode well for active development in the short term. That means that if you bought this game, you're playing in early access, you probably should be concerned. Because so far it seems like the sort of decision-making that got us into this mess is the kind of decision-making that'll continue. IGN sources talked a little bit about essentially what things were like at Private Division. So I'm going to quote from their article. Sources...
Oh boy, IGN. Wow, that's gonna be reliable.
...say the label was often saddled with unreasonable sales targets and pressure to release games before they were ready, with Kerbal Space Program 2 being a notable recent example. Yes, again, that is stupid, that is self-defeating, but it also is something that continually happens in the industry. For a lot of the people who are making the biggest decisions, they are often concerned about quarterly results, yearly results, that kind of thing. They're not always going to be thinking about the 2-year, 5-year, or 10-year term. And to most of us, that's fairly insane. I mean, you'd probably say, well, if you're an investor, if you maybe have shares of a company, surely the whole...
Well, to be fair, one thing about all of this is that if you are making sure that your quarterly or even monthly reports are fine and good, that means that you don't have to worry about the future because chances are everything's going good. Now, the problem with gaming is that's not exactly how it works, but, you know, that's a different story.
The whole point is you believe that that company is strong and a good place to put your money in, so if they do the right thing for the long term instead of the money quick now thing, I mean, surely that's good. Surely you should put your money in.
Well, the thing is, money quick now thing is actually more lucrative for investors than the long term typically. Dude, I'm not looking at any gaming company for long term investments. Hell no. That's where McDonald's comes in. That's where Microsoft comes in. That's where Walmart comes in. That's when fucking Bed Bath and Beyond comes in. Jesus Christ. Okay, Bed Bath and Beyond is dead, I think, but that was a joke. But you know, I am not looking to invest in any game company for a 5-year term, unless maybe it's Rockstar. But for anything else, dude, Home Depot, McDonald's, PepsiCo, Coca-Cola. All of that stuff is so much better.
In there. And there are plenty of cases where that kind of thing does actually.
Especially PepsiCo, by the way. People don't understand this, but in my opinion, PepsiCo is super underrated because the thing that people don't understand about Coca-Cola and Pepsi is that there's a huge difference. Coca-Cola is Coca-Cola. Pepsi literally owns half of the world's fucking foods at this point, or is a huge part of it. Now, this is not financial advice, but, you know, people don't understand these things. That's what I'm effectively saying.
Work out, but a lot of the time, it's almost, to me, a bit like an opportunity cost thing. If your money is sitting in a certain company, and, you know, it might have a good 5-year plan, but then there might be another company that maybe is looking a little bit more bullish in the short term. So there is a sort of expected cost in being in the short term lower performing asset. I think that's some of the thought pattern that drives this stuff anyway. Or at the very least, that helps explain something that to the rest of us seems bloody stupid. Now, the live development of this game did see an update.
Again, I just think it's really stupid to think that gaming is a 5-year plan type of deal thing. I don't know.
On the 11th of June. This was after staff had been informed of the layoffs, but it was before the studio closed. And it's kind of tragic because this patch was relatively small. It was fixing user experience.
Okay, maybe the biggest ones, for example, Blizzard. I think Amaranth made a lot by buying Blizzard stock. But yeah, I guess the biggest, well, that's why I said Rockstar. But, you know, some of the big, but I can't even figure out what... No, Ubisoft probably has absolutely because you can't make sure that the reputation is gonna outscale 5 disasters in a row. I think with Blizzard, we just know that their reputation can outscale 5 disasters in a row, because how many World of Warcraft expansions have been good before Dragonflight? Well, not the past 5, and we know how that turns out.
And bug issues. Thing is, though, they promised this on April 25th as the precursor to the Colonies update. The Colonies update is the big thing that the majority of the game team was building. Of course, 4 days after that promise was made to the players, the warn notice was filed. So that is absolutely brutal. They communicated with their players that they were going to do an immediate patch and that they were building up to a larger content release. 4 days later, they find out they're all losing their jobs, essentially. And that means that, yes, right now there is no developer, but the publisher are not necessarily in a position to build a new team. If this was something where they could just do a press release and put everybody's fears to rest, they probably would have, so why have they not? I mean, they're trying to sell the intellectual property, and Take-Two are also trying to sell them. So this is absolutely an uphill battle, and of course it's made all the more rough by Steam Early Access. Ostensibly, when you buy the game, you are basically supporting the development. Now, those sales may be a little tricky. I mean, Kerbal Space Program, very strong IP, yes, lots of people play it. Problem is, though, it's absolutely been through the ringer. It is not in a good state. So if you're a developer, right, maybe developer, publisher, whatever, if you buy Kerbal Space Program 2 to go and finish the game, you're basically buying a game that the community is furious about in the hopes that some...
Hell, wow. Wowie woo-wah. Wow, this is not looking good.
Somehow, if you throw more money into a situation that already wasn't going well, that it somehow would turn around and be good. Now, I do think there is a way to do that. If you basically say, we have acquired this, it's going to take us a little bit of time, but we have the will and we have the resources. We're going to do this right. That could actually work, but it would rely on them actually convincing people that the fundamentals have changed. So it still is.
No, this would rely on the fact that the developer understands and figures out that, wait a minute, we have not already sold to 90% of our audience. That is what this relies upon. Typically not the goodwill of the whatevers. It relies upon the fact, does the developer think that they have already sold to the majority of the audience? Because if they have, there's no point in pumping in money to fix that game, because no one else is going to buy it at that point.
A relatively risky sort of thing to go and buy Kerbal Space Program, the IP. Now, of course, there's also the Colonies update. Who the hell knows what's going to go on there? Because if it was to be finished by another developer, well, that would still take time. It wouldn't be ideal. Number one, a design would be finished by people who didn't start it. And that means that there's going to be a whole bunch of onboarding time, not only to their tools, to their code base, but also basically understanding the design principles. When you're developing a game, especially a live one like that, you're always generating hypothesis, and you're seeing how that shakes out. Those are important lessons. Thing is, though, they're sort of soft lessons. They're not necessarily a game feature. They're not necessarily a piece of code. They are a sort of intangible asset that is in the brains of the developers, the sort of thing that makes them do a polished experience that the players really, truly want. That is going to be the casualty here. Of course, when we go and look at Steam, we do see a big old wave of negativity, which is completely goddamn just.
It's understandable. People don't believe in this, obviously. It's not easy to believe someone who has burnt you once already. Potentially twice, honestly, at this point.
And it's gotten so bad that content creators around Kerbal Space Program are basically looking at KSP2 and they're wondering what's even the point of doing coverage. Because basically, the core game is so unfinished. I mean, look, we've talked about City Skylines 2 here. It does very much appear that this is a worse situation than CS2. Now, another side of this is Steam Early Access. How can a game be on Steam Early Access when there seemingly isn't a developer behind it? That is a very strange thing, and I've got to imagine that it would go down differently in a case like this, where it's big IP, big game, sort of all, known stuff, or maybe a single developer that's basically just scarpered off. I've got to imagine that where the single dev would probably be booted off Steam because the rule's been broken, away you go, and then in a case like this, it's probably a little bit more tricky for Valve. So, in terms of some facts, nobody at any point has updated the store page with any, status for the game. The social media accounts have got no information on the development situation surrounding the game. So, it's selling into early access. We factually know that
They also need to avoid the situation that, Steam has grown to be pretty famous of, and that is obviously the idea. That Steam just doesn't look at this and say, yeah, looks like a scam. Money back now, thank you. Now, admittedly, Steam only keeps the money for a month. But Steam could... Again, listen. There's a small misunderstanding about Steam and Gaben. Gaben definitely is not what you would call someone who is so greedy that he never does anything good. Steam does do good things time to time, but Steam is not immune to doing things that make them look good even though they didn't actually do anything impressive. This is what some people have a hard time to understand and actually accept. Because I also want to believe that Steam's good and whatnot. Gaben's brilliant strategy of do nothing and just to let your opponents shoot themselves in the foot is amazing and whatnot. But I do see a world where considering everyone who already wants to play Kerbal Space Program has bought the early access. I do see a world where Steam is like, okay, we're issuing refunds. We only hold money for a month, but, everyone who has bought it in a month now can get the refund back, and Steam looks super good. Steam does this time to time. Steam, the day before, remember that? Steam did give refunds to everyone who asked, but you needed to ask. Without that, you didn't get your refund. And only 50% of the people got the refund because of that. And the people who didn't, they just lost money. Now maybe those people are rich, maybe those people are wealthy and don't care about it. But still, point being, 50% of people did not get their refund of the day before. Steam could have literally just put the money back into your account, but they chose not to because, that would lose them money. So, Steam is good, but don't get it twisted. Steam is not the superb entity that always cares about you.
material circumstances of its early access development have changed and no formal update has been made there. Now, we do know that it's possible for sales to be suspended on Steam without removing access for existing players, so Steam could effectively do a delist to stop this game from being sold because, yes, Take-Two are selling a game that nobody is actually working on. Now, Steam's guidance here is that customers only purchase a game on early access if they're happy with the game at the time of purchase. That, of course, makes a lot of sense because basically the more liability Valve would have here, well, the more drama there could be, the more expensive that could get for Valve, so it does make sense to just throw that on the player. Thing is, though, there is also the requirement from developers to genuinely believe that they are going to finish the game. That is a requirement, and this is not some 5-person indie team who got way in over their heads. This is Take-Two Interactive throwing up a wall of silence and encouraging people to buy a game that nobody is working on. That, to me, does feel like something Valve should probably be talking to them about. In fact, if I was betting, I would say there's probably some sort of conversation going on. Now, one thing that is real weird is the closest that we've got to actual information. So this comes from the forum moderation team. Now, those are actually not Private Division staff. They've basically done a post saying that they'll do as much as they can. It's really weird. I'll read it out for you. Folks, we're in a very unsettled transitional situation. An unsettled transitional situation. That definitely sounds grim. Most, or perhaps all, of our parent company's staff have been laid off. We do not know what the new management's intentions are for the game or for the forum. We're trying to find that out, but so far without success. You should probably prepare yourselves for the possibility the forum could be shut down at any time, possibly without warning. Until we hear one way or another, it's our intention to go on moderating as we have been doing under the same rules. We wish we had better news, and they basically say, that's all that we know. So they said that. Some people got a little extra spooked, so they did do a follow-up post saying, to emphasize that they're not saying the forum will be shut down. They're essentially saying,
Yeah, that sounds just unnecessary, spookiness. Hey, so no one knows what's happening. It is what it is. Anyway, that was Billy, 10 out of 10. Bye-bye.